Welcome to this week's Wellness Webcast. Having a little fun with the theme music there. My name is Mo Wolf. I am CEO of Little Honeys LLC, the makers of Bee Rescue Propolis Care and raw bee pollen products. This is the Wellness Webcast, and this week we are talking about stress. We're talking about cortisol. We're talking about adrenaline. We're talking about chronic stress. But before we do that, stack of all kinds of good stuff here. Before we get into it, you've probably noticed that I've got the bees with me. Now, there's a very good reason for that. These ladies are here with me today because they went with me to Iowa yesterday. We went and we traveled to Iowa. It was about 650 miles round trip. Left yesterday morning at about 6 a.m. and spent some time with the good folks over at hy-vee. They're in Des Moines, Iowa, at their headquarters, and talked to a bunch of the big wigs there at hy-vee and a bunch of their salespeople, and just talked to them about Bee Rescued Propolis Care and introduced them to these lovely ladies. Gave them a chance to get to know the bees a little bit. That is fun. Incidentally, just so that you folks are aware, hy-vee grocery stores, you can now purchase Bee Rescued Propolis toothpaste right there at hy-vee. You can also purchase the men's shave gel, the moisturizing cream. The Propolis Rescue Balm is now available at hy-vee grocery stores, as well as the raw bee pollen. This is now available. And one of the things that was pointed out yesterday was this guy right here is the only one that they've got available for you that is not been cooked to death. This is the only raw bee pollen that they've got, is Bee Rescued Bee Energized raw bee pollen products. Very interesting group of people yesterday, very passionate group of people. It's exciting to be in a room with people that know their stuff, but it's even better to be in a room with people that are passionate about making sure their customers have what's best. So it was a lot of fun yesterday. We made some noise. We got a little rowdy. We enjoyed the bees. It was just a great time, and I thank you to all of you at hy-vee for having me over yesterday, letting me come over and play. It was fun. We're going to switch a little gear here. Norman's looking at me. Uh-oh, I'm forgetting something. I think he's wanting me to make some snide comments about traveling yesterday. Yes, I did have the bees, and they were with me. They were in the back seat. Well, of course they're in the back seat. You have to be 45. You have to be over 45 pounds to safely be in the front seat. That's according to the DOT. Yes, it's true. These ladies don't weigh more than 45 pounds. They're just maybe a gram or two each. And so I had to put them in their car seat, this guy, in the back seat and have it buckled. And then we put on the air conditioner so that it was nice and comfortable in the car, and we put on the music. And no, they didn't really appreciate my lack of taste in music, but we ended up finding some happy medium. They ended up really liking the calypso music. Believe it or not, these bees loved the calypso music. Those steel drums, beep, 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 beep. These ladies just lined up in the conga line and da-da-da-da-da, all around the observation hive. Yes, I am lying. But yes, we did travel yesterday about 650 miles, and they traveled beautifully, and they are beautiful. But let's switch gears. Let's talk about stress. Stress. Everybody has stress at some level in the body. Some of you have a situation where you're a caregiver, so your stress levels are just through the roof. Some of you have jobs that are very high stress. We all have stress levels. Some of them just are, unfortunately, crushing. For those of you who don't understand what it's like to be crushed by stress, let's talk about it a little bit. Let's talk about some of the long-term effects of stress. But let's begin with the immediate effects of stress on the body. What happens when you have stress on the body? Well, the good Lord designed the body so that when we come under stress, boom, a couple of things happen. Number one, our adrenal glands dump adrenaline into the bloodstream. The adrenal glands are the little hats on top of the kidney, little glands that produce adrenaline, and they work in the body to regulate that whole fight or flight mode, among other things. But that adrenaline gets dumped into the body, and what that adrenaline does is it's designed to increase heart rate. It's designed to elevate blood pressure. It's essential in a fight or flight situation. It's what gives us that extra strength and energy to do what we need to do to get out of the stress. The other hormone that gets released into the body is cortisol. Now, initially, cortisol, stress hormone, it acts to increase the availability of glucose in the blood. Increases the glucose in the bloodstream, which then allows the brain more fuel to do brain function, makes the brain sharper, which is why a lot of folks say, I operate better under pressure. Well, no kidding. Your brain has more glucose to work with, so you're able to think clearer. Cortisol also helps increase the availability of certain building materials that your body needs in order to help repair tissue that's been damaged. Cortisol, once it hits the bloodstream, it causes a decrease in non-essential functions of the body. It causes the blood to slow down, go into the extremities. We don't need it in the fingertips. We need it right here in the core. We need it to go to the brain. It even hinders circulation distally. It decreases blood flow into the digestive tract, which then hinders digestion. That cortisol causes reproductive problems. Anything that's non-essential to getting my rear end out of trouble, cortisol is what causes the body to say, hey, I don't need this right now. Let's focus on getting out of this stressful situation. The problem is, when you are in a stressful situation long term, you just get stress dumped on you every day, day in, day out, moment by moment, and you're just getting ground up. Well, here's the thing. All of this stuff continues to happen. Long term, you can end up with adrenal fatigue because you've been living on adrenaline for so long, and those adrenal glands basically just get worn out. Your body just gets used to that level of adrenaline and needs more and more and more, and the adrenal glands get worn out, and you end up exhausted and feeling like the udders on a snake. Don't shake your head at me. Can you imagine feeling any worse than the udders on a snake? That's about as low as you get, man. So the effects of stress on the body are real. And the effects of stress on the body are, well, they're detrimental. So this response that's supposed to be short-term, it's supposed to be self-limiting, it's supposed to be a good thing. Unfortunately, we've put ourselves in positions where that stress is long-term and more chronic, and we end up with the effects of these stress hormones in a long-term situation, which it was never designed to be. According to the Mayo Clinic, chronic stress can cause anxiety, depression, digestive problems, heart disease, sleep problems, weight gain, memory, and concentration impairment. Remember the last couple of weeks we've talked about heart health, we've talked about obesity, we've talked about a number of things. And what's interesting is depression, digestive problems, heart health, obesity, sleep disorders. They all have this in common. They all have stress in common. Stress is a key factor in all of these things. So, if you can decrease the amount of stress in your life, then you are going to decrease the effects of that stress on the body. You're going to effectively lower that adrenaline. You're going to effectively lower that cortisol within the body. How can you do that? Well, some of you are going to be able to analyze the stressors in your body, and you're going to be able to say, like that train out there. I don't know if you can hear that, but we have a train going by the studios right now, and he just blew his horn. Thanks, pal. I salute you. Gosh. Good tea. So, some of you are not going to be able to remove the stressors. I can't remove that train. I can't make that train stop going by the studio. But what I can do is I can regulate my response to that train. I can stay focused on the job at hand, the task at hand. If you're a caregiver, that's very important. A couple weeks ago, I had to take my dad into the emergency room. He was having an allergic reaction to some medications that he was on. You can either A, panic, let that stress just go, wah! Or B, you can stay focused on the task at hand, and the task at hand in that case was getting Dad to the emergency room, communicating effectively what was going on, making sure that what was the protocol that was the treatment strategy that was being executed was the correct one, that I agreed with it. Hey, you as the caregiver, you're very important. You probably know what's going on more than the folks coming in to treat. And so it's your responsibility to be able to communicate that with the medical professionals to say, hey, this is what's going on. No, you're not listening to me. This is what's going on. And then because you've done your homework, you're able to communicate and then help guide. Now, ultimately, the medical professionals are going to make their judgment calls, and they're going to do what they need to do to take care of that person. But oftentimes, a very calm, very focused individual who knows what's going on and can communicate it effectively, better than I'm doing here, that person is going to be a valuable tool to that medical team. So making sure that you're mission-oriented in your brain. I've got to go to work. It's going to be stressful. I got to get these tasks done. And I know so-and-so is going to be jumping on my back. I know it's going to be a problem. But I've got a choice in how I can react. I can not allow myself to get flustered, stressed out. I can get this. I can take a breath. By taking a breath, a deep, slow breath into the dantian, that belly button area, you're going to actually decrease that stress on the body. You're going to actually help decrease the cortisol that's being released in the body. You're going to actually help decrease that adrenaline dump. It's going to help the body to actually focus. What a beautiful thing that you've been given, this ability to unplug. Why is stress so important? Well, because of all of those long-term effects that it can cause. We talked about it. Long-term stress can cause anxiety, depression, digestive problems. You know why it causes depression? Because one of the things cortisol does is it communicates with different regions of your brain, those regions of the brain that control mood, motivation, and fear, which, I tell you what, that you get yourself a cortisol dump, say you've been in a combat situation, you just combat after combat after combat situation, and you're living on that adrenaline, you're living on that cortisol, and it's imprinting into the brain to impair that mood center, that focus center, that fear center of the brain. And now your brain has been trained to operate on these levels, and you come out of that combat situation and you end up with post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, I'm not just talking combat situations for soldiers, although it's very real for those folks. I'm talking combat situations for, well, say a kid in an abusive situation. That's a combat situation. You're surviving. Anytime you are fighting for survival, it's combat. And it all starts right here. And it all continues to be right up here. Because even though you're out of that situation, you're still waging that combat survival right up in here. And you have to make that focused decision. I am going to overcome it. I am going to take a deep, slow breath, and I'm going to decrease that adrenaline, decrease that cortisol, and I'm going to focus. One of the things that takes place with chronic stress is decreased immune response. If you're somebody who lives a high-stress life and you've got really bad immune system, you're always catching colds, always getting sick, this is something you want to... Norman's pointing to himself. Yes, always stressed out, always getting sick with something. You may want to start considering supporting your body, taking care of yourself so that you don't have such high stress levels. What are some things you can do? We talked about deep breathing. We talked about Qigong a couple weeks ago. Qigong has actually been shown to decrease these stress levels, these stress hormones in the body. We talked last week about, I think it was last week, about Qigong being able to, having been empirically shown to lower high blood pressure. So by doing these Qigong exercises, you're able to lower this cortisol level in the body. And one of the other things you can do, remember, stress causes digestive impairment. Stress causes heart disease. Stress causes all these problems we've talked about. By adding bee pollen to your diet, you're going to be giving your body, number one, materials that it can repair tissue with, building materials that are needed for repair, but also fuel to be supplied for ongoing function. So by giving yourself something like bee pollen, a whole raw food that is easy to digest, easy for the body to use, easy for the body to absorb, what you're going to be doing is effectively giving yourself something that is going to just high charge that nutrients going into the body. By increasing the nutrition going into the body through a whole raw food, not some silly vitamin pill, but something that is real, something that the body can actually use, you are going to effectively boost the immune system. You are effectively going to increase your energy and your stamina. You're on burnout, man. You have been running 120 miles an hour for 6 months, 3 years, 12 years, and you're burned out. You need something that's going to support your body. Throw out the caffeine. That's just going to give you a crash. You need something that's going to support the body, going to give your body the nutrients it needs and the energy it needs to help start bringing you back up to that level of function that your body needs to be at. Boosting the immune system. Boosting the cardiovascular health. Doing the Qigong to increase the vasodilation in the distal extremities. One of the problems that diabetics with chronic stress have is with diabetes, their circulation is already bad in their extremities. But then you compound that with the stress, and the stress which causes the blood to leave the skin layers and go deep into the muscle tissue and the organs. Well, what happens is that skin just doesn't get nourished anymore, and you start developing those lesions that diabetics sometimes get, compounded by the stress. So by doing that Qigong, okay, you are increasing vasodilation in the extremities, which then lowers the risks and lowers the symptoms of some of these other complications. According to the University of Maryland Medical Center, most Americans report feeling moderate to high stress levels. 44% of adults report that their stress level has increased in the last 5 years. Money, work, concerns about job loss, and the economy are major sources of stress. 39% of adults report overeating or eating unhealthy foods due to stress. More than half of Americans acknowledge that exercise is important, but only a third were satisfied with their level of exercise. And just because they were satisfied with their level of exercise doesn't mean they're getting the right amount of exercise. I know several people who get too much exercise. Yes, it's possible to get too much. You're taxing your body. I know many, many, many more people who seem to be happy with their level of exercise and aren't getting any. We can fool ourselves. And that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this webcast, is to encourage you to be honest with yourself about the needs, the internal goings on, so that you can make identifications of what's going on inside and have some tips, have some strategies to overcome. The idea is not just to survive, but the idea is to live beautifully. Stress, I mean, look at this. All these pages talking about the bad stuff stress does on the body chronically. I've got 16 pages just in one article from the Maryland Medical Center talking about stress on the body. I'd recommend you looking it up and reading it. Stress is very serious. If you are towards the end of burnout, number one, my heart goes out to you. It's real. You're feeling lousy. You're feeling at the end of your rope. It's real. Chronic stress has actually been shown to make the ends of the DNA, the telomeres on the DNA, to actually come unraveled, so that your DNA literally starts falling apart. That's where the whole concept of the link between chronic stress and some cancers have been shown. So if you feel like you're coming unraveled, guess what? You are. But the time is now to make the decision. I'm not going down that road. I'm going to make that choice right now to make a change. I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm going to disengage my fight or flight system. I am going to start doing some Qigong exercises now, so that way I can start increasing that vasodilation, lower blood pressure, start getting all of the benefits. I'm going to start feeding my body something real. Forget the processed foods. Forget the energy shakes and garbage that's out there. Forget the vitamins. Start giving yourself a whole raw food, something like bee pollen. A friend of mine, she doesn't like bee pollen. She doesn't like the flavor of it. So what she does is she makes wheatgrass shots, and she'll put pollen in the wheatgrass shot. And I tell you what, that's a great idea. You're getting your wheatgrass, you're getting your pollen. What a wonderful idea. So I hope I've given you some tools to use. Hope I've given you some encouragement too. Keep in mind, these products, you can get our bee pollen at Whole Foods in the Midwest. You can also get our bee pollen at stores around the country, Hy-vee grocery stores. It's now available. If for some reason your store that you go to, your health food store, your grocery store, whatever store that you buy your personal care items at, your food at, if they don't yet carry Bee Rescued Propolis Care or Bee Energized Raw Bee Pollen products, you need it. Tell them to bring it in. If one of the stores that you're at carries just a selection of our products and doesn't carry them all and doesn't have the product you want, tell them to bring it in. Talk to them, hound them. Let's get these things available. Otherwise, until those stores start bringing it in, contact us, 1-855-679-5433, or go online to berescuedonline.com. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for supporting Bee Rescued Propolis Care. On behalf of all of us here, Norman, Julius, also known as Mom, I want to thank you. Keep those cards and letters coming in. And thank you for supporting Bee Rescued Propolis Care, Bee Energized Raw Bee Pollen products. Till next week, be happy and be well. Thank you.